Coming to you live from a little grass shack in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it's the Junior Kekuewa Jr. Show, starring Junior Kekuewa Jr.
I love my job, but this guy?
Join Junior along with the Wayne Borje Band as he makes any kind from Hawaii.
You have no idea.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Junior Kekuewa Jr.
How's Hawaiians? How you Hawaiians? Hawaiians. And when you're listening to this, okay, hey, that's it. Daddy's talking. All right, thank you. When you're listening to the show, you are an honorary Hawaiian wherever you are on the planet. And boy, do we have a planet full of people listening. Okay, so we just, every once in a while we run over the analytics, as it were, just to give you an idea of our audience and where we are being received pretty well, as a matter of fact. We have had no complaints. If you do have complaints, please, by all means, email us because we'd like to handle this appropriately. But anyway, so yeah, our demographics, our audience is basically predominantly male. Duh. Yeah, we talk a lot about male topics and relationships pertaining to men, okay, and pertaining to how they should, handle themselves in a leadership role. Anyway, and it gets so touchy. That stuff gets so I hardly do it because yeah, it is very scientific. But it's not PC and everybody gets all, in a tizzy. We have younger audience members, okay? We'd like to say aloha to you guys, 0 to 17. Okay, that demographic is going up. It's actually, it's actually growing. 18 to 22-year-olds, our basic solid demographic is 28 to dead. At maybe 23 to dead, but basically the 28 is pretty strong, and it's strong all the way to dead. So all the way, Hawaiians. Okay, and our new countries, Poland, Cyprus, Peru, Guam, Kuwait, and El Salvador. So we'd like to say welcome and welcome to the podcast, and thank you for following the podcast on Apple and our other affiliates. Okay, also we're on iHeartMedia. So iHeartMedia, the iHeartMedia or radio app, I think it is, yeah. And I used to work there, iHeartMedia, long time ago. So anyway, yes, welcome and thank you for joining us today on the podcast. We're going to be talking about like a lot of stuff. Okay, I don't normally talk about personal stuff like in depth. Okay, but I will tell you that. Yeah, so the subconscious, your subconscious, okay, we're going to get back to subconscious study here for a little bit. But your subconscious is very powerful, okay? There's an old saying, and they say, if you do not control your mind, somebody else will, okay? If you don't take your subconscious and go, all right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, your subconscious, something else will do it for you. What am I talking about? I'm talking about for example, media, for example, politics, for example, corporations, for example, your job. Okay, like all of these things will take control of your subconscious for you. Okay, so it's very important. It's very pertinent that you do it. Okay, why? Well, you can take control of your life. Okay, I put up a quote today, and I'm going to read this quote. I put it up on Facebook, on a couple of accounts on Facebook, a couple of our accounts, and it says my quote here is: your subconscious is the blueprint, and your life is the construction. Okay, so change the blueprint, and the structure must follow. Okay, what does that mean? That means everything you believe to be true will construct your life. Your life is built out of that. Out of your beliefs. Okay, so like when I was young, I had good experiences. Okay, and when I was young, I had these experiences that expanded my mind. Okay, now I know a lot of people, and I was raised with a lot of people with narrow minds, and it was very clear to me when I, in fact, there was this one kid. I did this one time, and I was just that kind of kid. And this guy would pester me and pester me and pester me, right? So one day I went hiking, and I happened, and this guy, like he was the type of kid that believed everything you told him, right? And I was going on a hike, and I told him I was coming back in a week. And of course he, went home, told his grandmother called my parents, and man, drama, okay? Drama. But and of course I came home. And of course I didn't stay for a week. And of course when I got home, I told my mom, he's not dealing with a full deck. And my mom was like, if he was that easy to manipulate, hello. So anyway, but my point through this whole thing is your subconscious is your operating system. It runs your habits, your emotions, your beliefs, and your automatic behaviors, autopilot. And most people are sleeping. Guys, most people are fast asleep. They're living in repetition, okay? Because 95%, well, there's no specific quantification. I want to say that as a disclaimer, okay? Because you can't say, well, okay, at the 95% line, we cut it off. No, but a great majority, let's say over 90%, okay, over 90% of your life is being played out in repetition, okay? And the repetition is on what you're doing, what you know, what you believe, what you have put into your subconscious. Okay, so, and I'm going to, share more things from my life and how it worked and how it went. And, so when you're young watching your parents, okay, your first paradigm, let's talk about your first paradigm. 0, okay, when you're born, okay, that's, well, yeah, right before you're born is 0. Okay, then you come in at 1 minute, right, or whatever, 1 second. Okay, from the time you're 1 second old, okay, till 7 years old, all right, your first paradigm is formed. Okay, now I made a name for myself playing a dummy on the radio, and because it was fun, it was so much fun. I was channeling like guys I knew in high school, right? And so when I talk like this, whenever I talk like this in the studio, like when the mics were off, like when people would kind of look at me like I was crazy, okay? And here's why, right? Because they always saw me as the other guy. They always saw me as the clown. They always saw me as the dummy, right? And then when I would speak like this, everybody would like scratch their heads and go, huh? Like, because it just threw them. Except for this one guy that I worked with that could keep up with me intellectually, because he was well-read, he was smart, he was like that. And we would laugh about it. We would talk about it. We would observe the programs in other people, okay? And you can do this, okay, if your level of awareness is greater, okay? And what is this greater sense of awareness? Okay, first, back to the paradigm. So your paradigm, okay? So 0, okay, to 7 years old. That's your first set of beliefs, things that you believe to be true about the world. Okay, well, during that time when my paradigm was being constructed, I was traveling the world. Okay, this is not about a flex. I'm just saying I was in foreign countries. I was speaking foreign languages. Okay, 4 of them, 4 different languages I got into, because we would stay in these places for months. Okay, it wasn't like a 2-week vacation and then come home. No, we enjoyed it so much that we just stayed. So anyway, the point of this is whatever you believe to be true starts to play out in your life. Okay, so I thought, when I was a kid, I thought that, okay, everybody grows up like that. This happens to everybody, right? And I was like, okay, if this happens to everybody and this is normal, then I should be able to, attain all this stuff, right? And so other people, okay, and another point is other people are not raised like this. Other people are raised in lack. Okay, other people are raised in, let's say, not having or having to get by or having to scratch the surface for stuff or whatever it is. And those people kind of see life like, man, okay, like that, right? And then they get more of that because their subconscious plays out more of that. Now, some people, you hear about these insanely rich people, right? And they come from poor beginnings, right? They're poor and they go out in the world and they kill it. right? They slay. That's another slang, right? Whatever. But they do that, okay? And then they accumulate this great wealth, okay? What are they doing really? Okay, they're running. What are they running from? Poverty, okay? Because you have an extreme here. Okay. Now, on the other end, do you have an extreme? Like for me, on my end, do you have an extreme? Well, kind of, sort of. But the extreme is in my imagination. The extreme is not something that I'm doing. Okay. And my producer. So I have this producer. She's very beautiful, and she's my producer on the other thing or the other platform that we do, and we do a live. Okay. And she's witnessed this stuff that I do. And she's witnessed like all of these things, and because I let her know, I show her receipts. Yeah, I show her the receipts, right? And so she sees all these things, right? And I show her, and I said, no, this is living from the spirit. Now, the problem with the spirit, concept, right, is that you've been told, we've all been told certain things about spirituality, certain things that come from religion that are partially based, in control, right? And then other things. But your subconscious, because it's your operating system, those beliefs that happen between the time you're born and the time you're 7 years old tend to stay with you. Okay, because if somebody, kind of presents the idea to me that there's no God, I'm like, well, how is that? Because when I pray, I get stuff. Like I tested prayer on purpose. So I get things I pray for. Okay. How is it that when I, speak things, they start to come? Right? When I speak about them repetitively, speak about them when I'm by myself, I don't go around talking to myself. Although I will tell you that right now, Hawaiian Scare, it is not abnormal. It does not look abnormal because of Bluetooth and everything. People are always talking, right? And you see them talking, you go, okay, they're talking on their phone. Some of those people are crazy. All right. I'm just saying, but back in the day, everybody was crazy if they did that. Okay. So we have evolved as a society, and the world is changing. Okay. But in your subconscious, your beliefs, whether they're religious, whether they're based on your work ethic or whatever it is. Okay. And I sent out a birthday text this morning to like such an amazing lady. She is so amazing. She will never listen to this podcast. I don't think she knows it exists, but she is so amazing. Okay. And I'm not going to even give you her background or whatever, but I will tell you that she was suffering from chest pain. Okay. She was suffering from chest pain. I'm going to tell you this short story. And I don't really divulge all the little details because, my treatments are, well, let's not call them treatments. Let's call them sessions. My sessions are confidential. Okay. But here's what I do. And this is what I do for a living. I heal. Okay. And I know it sounds like, oh, you heal, so what is this snake oil you're selling? No, this is real stuff. This is through the human voice. So this lady, right, she had chest pain. And so now, of course, I ask, well, what is this chest pain from? Oh, it's from stress. When did this chest pain start was my next question. The answer was, I've always had this chest pain. And I'm like, whoa, like she's always, so I'm thinking like, oh, she's always had chest pain, what? Right? And so then we go back, right? And we go back to high school, and we go back to getting out of high school and getting into college. Then we get into law school, and then we get after law school. And I'm like, oh, ever since law school, ever since college. And I'm like, wow. So basically, okay, the overall picture was ever since she got into college, she's been running. She was running. Okay. Now this is not unusual. Okay. This happens in so many professionals. Okay. But she was running, and she told me, she says, because I went on LinkedIn one day, and this was maybe, I don't know, 4 months into knowing her, because I don't check up on my people, and I deal with a lot of professionals, and I don't really, snoop into their profiles on LinkedIn, but I just happen to, because I'm like, well, let me see let me see what we're talking about, because she's got chest pain. She must be a high achiever, right? I get to her LinkedIn profile and I'm like, oh my God, like this lady is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Okay. Now, I see achievements like above and beyond, like an overachiever. Okay. And she may not think that way. People that are overachievers, like I kind of have been called an overachiever. And my graphic artist told me years ago, she told me, okay, when is enough for you? And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, when is enough enough? When is enough money, or when, the accomplishments, whatever, when is it going to be enough for you? And I'm like, there is no enough. I just do. That's what I do, right? And my ADHD does not help. I gotta be honest, okay? The H in ADHD stands for hyper, and away we go. So anyway, but so this lady, right? I work on her chest pain. I said, I'm gonna get rid of this through your voice, and she's like, what? So we start working on it, right? And I get more intense with the voice, because the more intense you get with people's voice, okay, the bigger results you get. All right, and so I start pushing, and pretty soon, around month number 5, the chest pain is gone, completely gone. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's gone. Okay, now she was with me 9 months. This is month number 5. Okay, and now the following month, I'm like, all right, let's see if this is still working. And it worked all the way till month number 9. And then there was no reason to continue. And so she's not my client anymore. But she was running. Okay, the bottom line, the lesson here is she was running through her career. And she told me, she goes, I've been operating, because I told her, I said, well, if you're operating from fear, okay, that interrupts manifestation. In other words, and don't get me wrong, it's, manifestation happens whether you think so or not, whether you want it to or not, okay? But things like chest pain that develop, okay, negative things, are a result of either doubt or fear, okay? Because those things interrupt, let's say, what would be rightfully yours. What would be yours in the best set of circumstances? What would be yours if, you didn't doubt, you weren't afraid, and these things just come to you. The things that are meant for you. The things in your subconscious, right, that are good things. Okay. So anyway, we get to that part of the discussion, and she goes, I just didn't want to be poor. Whoa. You see? Okay. And a lot of people are like this. Now, I never thought about poverty like that. The way I thought about poverty when I was young, when I was 18, 17, I left the house. I left the island. Okay. And I at that point, I had enough. I was like, oh man. And I left. Okay. And because I was looking for the things that I were looking for wasn't even on my island. I was looking for entertainment. I was looking, to go, I don't know. The plan was sing to girls and get paid for it, right? Stuff I saw on TV. And none of that was on my island, so I left. Anyway, but in this search for, whatever, right? There were many turns. There were many side streets, if you will. And I went down all of these side streets. But the way I looked at poverty, okay, the way I looked at poverty wasn't like in a bad way. But, I was like, I wonder what it's like. Okay, and eventually I manifested that. And I slept on a sidewalk for months, okay? About 2.5 months. No, almost, I don't know if it was 2.5, 3, something like that, short like that, but like that, right? And then I started understanding what the bottom of the barrel was, okay? Like the sidewalk. That to me, that's, there was only one more level below the sidewalk. Well, there were 2, okay? And that was prison. And then below that is graveyard. And those are the only 2 levels you can go past the street. Prison and graveyard. If you get into prison, okay, yeah, bad stuff happens, but that's a level you can recover from. Okay, you can't recover from the graveyard as far as I know. Okay, so anyway, but the way I looked at it was like, wow, I wonder what it's like. I wonder what it's like. I wonder what it's like. And then boom, there I was. Okay, so, and then I learned how the other half lived. Then I learned how, people with absolutely nothing, survived. And I was like, whoa, this is interesting, and I made, what I call friends, because these guys on the street, right, became more friends, okay, friends, and I'm using those quotation marks, okay, because there's friends and there's acquaintances. But these acquaintances were more like friends than the, friends I met later in life, okay? Friends, I'm doing the quotation marks thingies. Yeah. But because you cannot confuse, here's a good one for you young guys, okay? Never confuse your coworkers for friends. Okay, friends are different. Okay, they're different. Coworkers can become friends. Okay, but don't be around all the smiles and all the hey, what's up? You don't let that throw you. Don't let that influence you. Okay, different. Okay, small kind different. All right. Now, as far as the vibrational awareness. Okay, raising your vibration raises your awareness. Okay, because you thought I wasn't going to come back to that, huh, Waynes? Okay, all right. But raising your vibration raises your awareness. What happens when you raise your awareness? When you raise your awareness, you can see these things. Okay, now some people refer to your subconscious mind as infinite intelligence. Okay, because it works with the superconscious. 3 states of awareness. Okay, I always talk about it: the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. The superconscious is God or consciousness, okay, or the all that is. Okay, and if you really want to experience the all that is, you have to meditate. Okay, and I just mean sit in silence. Okay, for 2 weeks. Okay, for at least 10 to 15 minutes a day. 10 to 15 minutes, okay? If you're doing an hour and a half or an hour, okay, you're showing off. Okay, go back 10 to 15 minutes, okay? I do a half an hour, but I do guided meditations. I like to do that. To me, I get more benefit out of that. And yes, part of it is your imagination, okay? But the majority of it is your intuition. And that's what you really need to focus on, is your intuition. That is your guidance. Okay, so your subconscious, your habits, emotions, beliefs, right, and automatic behaviors. Okay, if you want to change any of the, let's say, the results in your life, okay, you have to train your subconscious to accept a new reality. Now that reality could be anything. Okay, so here's the thing. When I was, on my journey, okay, and I don't normally talk about these things, but when I was on my journey to become the guy that could do the Waikiki show that I did, okay, I was looking at all these other guys. I was looking at Frank Sinatra. I was looking at Dean Martin. I was looking at Don Ho. I was looking at Sam Kapu. These are people that I looked up to. Okay, Don Ho and Sam Kapu were local. They were in Hawaii. Okay, but Frank Sinatra, everybody on the planet knows who that is, right? So I was watching him on TV and watching all this stuff. I never really got into, really being all about Frank Sinatra, although I liked his songs and I liked his the way he sang the songs, right? But Dean Martin was probably, to me, in my humble opinion, the most underrated talent in the world when I was growing up. Like underrated. Like he could do anything. This guy could do anything. Okay. And so I kind of wanted to be like that, like do anything. Right. So, and when you look me up, you're going to see, wow, okay, I did ventriloquism. Wow. He played the guitar. Wow. He did, whatever, did. But that was me. That was what my life is about. My life is about, sure, it's about teaching. Sure, it's about lifting people up. Sure, it's about helping people. Okay, but it was about experiencing all these facets of life. Okay, because I could have just been, the regular guy, right? Go out, date, go to nightclubs, go, whatever. Do that one job, that 9 to 5, do it till I'm, 72 or whatever, right? And then get the gold watch and the mahalo party. And then, we call it a mahalo party. It's a thank you party. It's like when you retire. Okay, so, and then retire, take a few cruises and roll over and die, okay? And call it a life, right? Wrong. That's not a life. Okay. Well, it's a life for some people. Okay. But not for me. Okay. I was born different. I was born with ADHD. So, yeah. So, I mean, but that's one thing. But I always had these ideas, always, since I was a little kid. So now, let's continue with the subconscious. Okay, now, what are the fastest ways to reshape your subconscious? Or let's say it in a different way, to tell yourself a new story about yourself. Okay? So I am so happy and grateful. Affirmations. That's the first one, right? So it's affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization, affirmations. I am so happy and grateful. Now get a pen. Okay, get a pen. Okay, write it down. You have to write it down. I see the young kids, and I'm not attacking the young kids or, trying to make them shame or anything, because they don't care about me. But I see these young kids and they go, well, you have to speak your affirmations every day. You have to speak it. Yes, you do have to speak it, okay, but you have to write it. That's the part they're missing. Okay, they're not teaching other people to write. Why? Because they're growing up without pens. They're growing up typing. Okay, they're growing up with their phones, with their thumbs. Okay, so no, you have to hold a pen. Okay, hold a pen because it goes right in your subconscious. Now start writing. I am so happy and grateful now that I am, wealthy. Now that I am an engineer. Now that I am an airline pilot. Now that I am a senior citizen that, opened a new business and is now grossing $250,000 a year. Thank you. There you go. Okay. I got a lot of seniors that listen to me, or let's say people, in the neighborhood of their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Okay. So I didn't mean to throw your 40-year-olds in there, but they're trust me, 50 is right around the corner from 40. It happens like that. One more time, Hawaiians. Whoa, one more time. There you go. Like that. Okay. Like that. Now, there's affirmations. Okay. So you write your affirmation like that. Don't forget to put thank you at the end. You have to be grateful. Okay. God is real. That's why. Okay. God is real. Okay. Let me really explain this. And one of these days I'm going to talk about God. One of these days on the podcast, I'm going to do a podcast about Jesus Christ. Okay. But here's the thing. You are not being told the real story of God. Okay. You are being told partial stories. You're being told part of it. Okay, because you are anchored in the physical reality. And this gets a little deep, okay? Just bear with me. Okay, I'm not going to stay here, but I'm going to mention it. It gets a little deep. You're anchored in this physical reality so much that you think that that's reality. And reality is in you. Okay, reality is when you close your eyes, okay, and you ask questions and you get answers and you go, whoa, how did that happen? You know what the problem is? Okay, the problem is you are so anchored into the video games. You are so anchored into the TV shows. You know, those dramas, those what do they call them? The series. When you watch 35 episodes, and you just keep going day and night. I know people like that. Okay, and but I'm just saying, you're gonna spend your life like that. I'm like, okay, fine. To each his own. I'm not saying that's wrong. Okay. If you're living your life like that, okay, more power to you. Go ahead, enjoy. Okay. But when you close your eyes and you ask and you get answers and you don't trust yourself, okay, because you don't trust the answers. Okay. The answers are coming from God. All right. But because you are not familiar, because you are, let's say, more anchored into what you see, the stories that are being told to you, okay? The stories that are being projected onto you from your television, from the movie screen, okay? From social media, from all these things, okay? And it's being projected onto you and you accept that as reality. Why? Well, because my eyes told me so. I can see it, therefore it is real. Oh, really? Okay, so AI is going to change this whole method of thinking because pretty soon you won't know what to believe, okay? Because everything will seem real, okay? And pretty soon you can't tell real from fake, okay? It's getting better. The technology, in 5 years, okay? In 5 years, you won't be able to tell. Right now, you can still tell, okay? Because you see some fingers missing, you see some, buildings that aren't there, partial buildings or partial whatever. Pretty soon you won't be able to tell. Okay, then what? Then what do you do? Boy, I'm probably not going to be around when it gets really bad. Okay, probably, because I don't plan on living to 100. I do not plan that at all. Okay, but, okay, here's your big fat but, Hawaiians. But if you're alive, okay, because if you're 20 years old right now listening to me, okay, you're going to see it. You're going to see this stuff. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to meditation. Okay. Quieting the conscious mind is what it's all about. It's not about stopping your thoughts. Okay. So people have some weird misconceptions on meditation. Okay. Just really strange. Okay. No, it's not. And it's not from the devil. That's what your Christian churches tell you. No, it's what you use it for. Okay, now if you're using it to summon a demon, okay, I know people that do that with a Bible. Okay, with a Bible, they're summoning people through the Bible. Okay, that they do that. Okay, I've seen it done. I mean, I haven't seen it like where it's in the room, but I've seen people talk about it. I've seen people explain it. I'm like, ugh, whatever. Okay. I'm just not interested in it, which is why I've never seen a demon. Okay. I felt negative energy. Okay. And what is it really when you feel negative energy? You know what it is? It's the absence of God energy, your love energy, the energy that you were born into when you were a baby. Okay, when that kind of runs down, when that kind of runs low, that's what they describe as the evil energy. Okay, it's just lack. It's really lack. Okay, and you respond to lack in such a way that it feels evil. Okay, that's what it actually is. All right, now meditation, it's quieting your conscious mind. Why? Because your conscious mind is the one that races. Your subconscious does not race. It does not. It accepts beliefs. And in order to accept something as a belief, what is it, right? Okay, repetition and emotion. Okay, the repetition is repetition of thoughts. Are you thinking about it? Okay, so what are you thinking about? Is it a good thought? Okay, fine. Because thoughts bring emotions, right? The emotion is what goes, all right, we're going to cement this in as good or bad, whatever, right? And then it goes like that. But then it starts to repeat in your subconscious. So when you meditate, it's quieting the conscious mind, okay? And the conscious mind is the one that picks the targets, okay? So it quiets that. It slows it down. Do you still think in meditation? Oh, yeah. But you know what? Intuition comes through stronger than thoughts, and you begin to observe your thoughts. You begin, because I heard Deepak Chopra describe it this way. He said, you have to be the observer of your thoughts. Be the sky, right? The clouds happen, the storms happen, everything, right? But the sky stays there, unaffected, and it just observes. Okay, so be the sky. All right, that's another way of looking at it. Okay, so, and I always say, you can be the observer, but your vibration has to rise high enough so that your awareness expands. We do this through the human voice, okay? But the meditation part is being still, okay? Just doing stillness, okay? And then you can receive stronger intuition and divine guidance, because that's what stronger intuition is, divine guidance. Listen to that feeling that you get. Okay, sometimes you hear it as your voice, but listen to that feeling. Vocalization, okay, it's our vocalization exercise. I'm not going to talk about it too much because we go into it on other podcasts and stuff. But vocalization is very important because your voice projects, okay, energy, frequency, vibration, okay, the things that Nikola Tesla told us that you could describe the universe better by, okay, and then we use velocity. So when you look up things like nervous system regulation, which is what I do, and that's, what I'm talking about when I say I heal people, okay, like the chest pain for that client of mine, right? Took away her chest pain. What was that really? It was nervous system regulation, okay? And it was also subconscious, but you have to break the patterns first. You have to pull people out of the patterns first, and your voice does it, okay? 12 weeks, and boom. you not even 12. I mean, third session, you feel the, if you want to call it magic, you feel the magic already. Third session. Okay. But 12 weeks and you can completely install new programs. Okay. I mean, whatever you want, but you have to, first of all, know what you believe. Okay. Which you only know when you think about a topic. Okay. So then you write it down. Okay. So it's a process. Okay. And you have to write these things down. You have to plan. Most people don't want to do that, right? Everything is served to us for convenience sake. Everything is convenient, right? Writing things down, oh, that's not convenient. I'll go, that takes too long. No. If you want good results, what do you want? You want money? You want to drive that new car? You want to live in that new house? I've done all of these things. Because I tested it all. I'm like, all right, let's see. Can I really live in $1 million mansion? Let me see. Okay, let me write this down. All right. And then guess what? One day I woke up, and looking straight out into the valley, this valley. Okay. And I walked out on the patio and I was like, son of a gun. And then I looked at the house that was on the top of the hill across the way. And I said, that's the goal. Okay, I erased that already. I said, no, I changed my mind. I changed my mind. I'm like, dude, you're playing this game, right? You already know, like from 2007, new car up until, just recently I got my new lease, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I have nothing to prove, okay? But the proof of the thing, the whole, essence of, the foundational knowledge of this whole thing is how to work your subconscious. That's all. And then it automatically, day and night, it will serve up in repetition these things that are necessary to trigger the superconscious. Okay, conscious, subconscious, superconscious. The superconscious, God, consciousness, the collective, whatever you want to call it, higher self, all of those labels, okay, will conspire to bring you what's in your subconscious, because it takes a look at your subconscious. It goes, oh, that's what you're working on. That's what you believe. And that's why some people consider themselves unlucky. Why? Well, they keep getting the same results, right? Why? Well, because they got the same actions going on. Where is it coming from? Their conscious mind? No, it's coming from their subconscious. It's programmed in there. They are stuck going in circles, and they don't know it because they're so stuck. Okay? They just know that all this stuff happens to them. What do? They feel like victims. They feel like victims, but it's their subconscious. Is their subconscious attacking them? Well, not necessarily attacking. It's just repeating. And that's why the definition of insanity, right, is doing the same things over and over, expecting better results or different results. Okay, but anyway, the vocalization breaks up all of that. Visualization, okay? You need to imagine where you're going. Okay, when I woke up in the house, okay, I woke up in that bedroom, in that master bedroom, okay, on that queen size, what was a king size? It was a California king bed in the master bedroom of the mansion. It was a 5-story house, okay? I called it a mansion because it was so huge, but it was huge up and down. Okay, it was just very huge up and down. And I looked out over the valley and everything. And after a while, it got pretty hot during the summers. And I was there. I was there for a few summers till I couldn't take it anymore. And I made the proclamation or the statement or the manifestation trigger, whatever. And I said, I am not doing, and I used I am, right? It was even worse. And I said, I am not doing one more year in this house unless I'm either going to do one of two things. I'm either going to install air conditioning in this room because that's where my office was, right? And I work a lot. And I go, or, because it was murder in September, August, September, like, ooh, ouch. It was hot. It was humid. It was just unpleasant. But it was this gorgeous house that people would kill for, right? Okay, but I was unhappy. I was unhappy. I wasn't ungrateful. I was grateful. Grateful for the house. I thank God for the house every day. I was walking up and down 5 flights of stairs every day. I was walking up and down stairs all the time, right? And I thought, whoa, well, at least when I'm old, my legs will be strong, yada, yada, whatever. But the heat, right? Okay, that bothered me. And so I said, I am going to do one of two things. I'm going to do this or that, or I'm going to sell the house. Okay. And then one day, and I'm going to look for this video because I have it on my phone somewhere, where I went out onto the patio and I looked down at this place called Kekuewa, okay, where I'm living now, exactly where I know this sounds like a bunch of BS, but this is exactly where I'm living now. And I pointed to because I thought, well, if it's a building, it's air conditioned, right? And so I pointed down there and I said, that's where I want to go. And I pointed and I said, that's the goal. That's what I said. I said, that's the goal. And guess what? Here I am. Funny how that works. Okay. But here's the thing. Now, I know a lot of you go, well, Uncle, I said this. I wrote this down. It didn't work. Okay. So here's the trick. You have to condition your subconscious. Okay. Condition it. Okay, what does that mean? That means you have to exercise it. You have to train it. Okay. It works just like your let's say, when you're studying in school, in high school, in college, you're studying for a test, and then you take the test, and then you study some more, and you get better, and you take a better test or whatever. You do another test, and you get better scores or whatever. It's like that. Okay, everything in life, everything starts small and grows, but you have to grow it. Okay, you have to develop your subconscious, and this is why it's called. So my method, there's 2 methods. Okay. One method is personal self-development through the human voice. Okay. That's the method for the voice. But the forward method, okay, is the method, is everything involved. Okay. And the reason why we call it the forward method is because you can move forward from that. Okay, because when you're stuck, when you're going in circles, you're not moving. You're not moving forward. You're not attaining goals. You're not getting to where you want to get in life, even if it's just comfortable. Some people just want to be comfortable. Like, God, if I could just have more time with my kids. God, if I could just have more time with my wife. Okay, God, if I could just have more time with whatever. Okay, that kind of thing. It's not about, not everybody wants $1 million. Not everybody wants, yada, 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 all that stuff. For me, it was just a game. It's like, okay, let's see if I can get that then. Like, if this is real, let me see if I can get the house. If this is real, let me see if I can get the new car. If this is real, let me see if I can, and every single thing came out. Okay, but I have like 12 pads of affirmations that started way back in 2007. Okay, so, I mean, just tons, and I save them in I don't know what I'm saving it for. I made a few videos. One of them's on TikTok, one of them's on Facebook, one of them's on Instagram. Okay, I made videos just to show people, and I think what it looks like to the average person is crazy. It just looks crazy. People look at it and they go, "Oh my God, look at that. That's crazy," right? Because who's gonna do that? Let me tell you who does that. Presidents, CEOs. Okay, people who are serious about their careers. Okay, those people do that. Okay, a lot of them journal. Okay, that's a little bit different. Okay, if you're gonna journal, don't put down anything negative. Okay, there's a reason. It goes into your subconscious. Okay, but these 4 practices. Okay, I call them the pillars: affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. Aimed at any one thing, it has to happen. Okay. But I got to tell you this, there's a catch. Okay, the catch. God is the catch, and the how is God's job. Okay? Now, sometimes there's an unfortunate thing that happens, okay, before you get what you want. And sometimes those things sting. Okay? it stings. Sometimes it's painful. Okay. Sometimes, I don't know, you lose a pet. Sometimes you lose a friend. Sometimes you lose a family member. Sometimes you get a divorce. Sometimes, because God knows what is the obstacle in your life. And some of those things gotta go. Some of those things, it depends on what you want, depending on what you want. But some of those things have to go because some of those things have to budge. And they cannot budge if everything is stuck, like a clogged drain. If your subconscious is like that and you're just going and you're spinning in circles, you're not getting the results you want. You have to do this methodically. Now, we have a method for it because the method is tested because I keep getting these results. And my producer, Jake, from the other side, from the lives. I'm not doing lives right now for the summer. So I go back on September 1st on TikTok. So we're not doing lives right now, but there's tons of lives on YouTube. You can look me up. There's tons of lives on TikTok. But the bottom line is I show her these things. Right? I go, look. And I show her the inside. I don't show people the inside. And there's no magic trick. So this is not like the magician showing the trick. There's no magic trick. This is your subconscious. Everybody's built like this. But the majority of people are just stuck in the physical world, looking at what other people have designed for them to look at. The TV news, the TV show, the movie. Boy, I know people that are this guy I worked with was so into movies. He had to kind of, be current with things because it was radio. But he was like, he saw every movie. People even bring this up in conversation. Oh, like that movie such and such. And I stand there and I go, no, I'm not into movies. And they look at me like I'm crazy. They go, what? And I go, yeah, I don't even own a television. And they're like, what? Like, they can't believe it, right? No, I'm not conditioned like that. So I have other means of learning. I have other means of study. I have other things that I do. But my biggest joy in the world, my huge, bigger than anything else. More than I don't know anything, is watching somebody break out of their prison. Is when I break people out of I have this one girl right now. Her mom sent me a recording of her singing in the shower, like belting out. And why is that a big deal? Doesn't everybody belt in the shower? Well, if you saw this girl when I met her, and how to herself she was, and how I would describe her as meek in that time. But she also went through a lot of trauma. That created part of that. But her personality is not like out there. She's an introvert. But she's brilliant. And then just the other day, just this past week, I get the audio, in my messenger on Facebook, and she's like, listen, check this out. And I listen, and oh my God, like, whoa. That's what I live for. I live for stuff like that. I can go through so much. I live for this attorney that no longer has chest pain, that can continue in her amazing career, that no longer runs because she's afraid of being poor. Because I said, hey, look, if you look at your career until now, look from today backwards, you take that and now you project that forward. Take that chunk of time and now move it forward. So that the start was like right now, right? And then move that forward. That's the same results you're going to get. Why? Because that's what you believe in your subconscious. Only this time she doesn't have to run. This time she doesn't have to run because she's not fearing that she's going to be poor. Because I proved to her beyond a shadow of a doubt that the reason why she is where she is the work ethic that she developed. The only difference is the absence of the fear and the doubt, the self-doubt. Because top-notch professionals suffer from this every single day. Okay, and as well as imposter syndrome. Look it up. It's a thing. Imposter syndrome. I get it too. It creeps in, and we get that feeling. Okay, and then at that time we have to go back. So what do? Oh, I put my name in Google. I put my name in Google. I don't know. Look at my resume. Well, I don't have a resume. I have a bio. I look at my bio and I go, oh, okay. Because we get hypnotized into this reality. Okay, we get drawn into this reality. We get told that this reality is reality. This is the thing. No, it's not. It's the illusion. You are being sucked into the illusion. Gautama Buddha said, the man who sees life as an illusion escapes suffering. Okay, and the only thing that's making you suffer is your attachment to the illusion, to this illusion. Okay, and we call it the world, and yeah, you can. Oh, sorry, Hawaiians, I gotta go. But yeah, okay. We're gonna talk more about this later. Yeah, okay. All right, but I hope you have some information now, and I pray, okay, I pray that you're not being sucked into this reality. All right, hey, and take it easy on the movies, please. All right, hey, we'd like to thank Voice Master, family of service companies, for sponsoring this show. They paid a lot of money to have this theme song written and done and whatever. Mr. Wayne Borge, by the way, he composed this. It's called Junior's Theme, and it's on iTunes, yeah, worldwide. Also, Darren Chinen's music on our other company, AFM Hawaii, AFMHawaiimusic.com. Okay, check it out. Till next time, I'm Junior Steve. Mahalo and aloha.